for this particular opportunity. I thank the church for giving me a platform in which I can share my experiences. And therefore, I'll go straight to what I was advised to present today. And I'll start by simply introducing what I intend for us to achieve today. Introductions have just been made. I will not go beyond that. Simply say that I love the Lord, and everything that I do is very influenced by the Bible. The agenda of this evening, I'll talk about personal finance. I'll talk about areas of personal finance. I'll talk about pillars of personal finance. And for those areas, I'll try to be just academic, to just mention areas that you need to know. However, I will also want to make sure that, because the topic that I was given to discuss tonight is mostly to look at areas in which we think we can invest in to provide for different sources of income. I believe that I have got a continuum of people here, some of who are very established in their financial status. Others are trying to just going into employment. Others are looking for employment. And with that, it is not going to be an advice on what you need to do, but just a matter of us to sharpen ourselves in terms of the areas that I think are good for us to look into as we look into areas of increasing our wealth. I must also say this, that because we are endowed differently, I may be a bit general in some of these issues. Some of them I'll be very, very specific, and some other areas I'll just be very, very general. Therefore, having said that, I would like to start by saying some few things that I think are critical as we think about finances. And I'll start by simply reading Ecclesiastes 10:10. It says, if the axe is dull, at its edge is unsharpened, more strength is needed, but skill will bring success. I believe that this is a platform that Destiny Life Church have given us so that we can sharpen one another and therefore become better. Also, Ecclesiastes 11:12 says, invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land. So the Bible is also very clear about us being good stewards, and in that be able to invest. So this is a session for us to sharpen ourselves. So I must say this, that this time is the aim I have is to sharpen our awareness in terms of what is it around us for us to become financially independent. But for me to talk about financial independence, what do I mean? This is actually having sufficient income, savings, or investments to live a comfortable life and meet all our financial obligations without necessarily relying on our paycheck. In some other definitions, simply living a life free from financial worries, constraints, or limitations, so that you can be able to enjoy your life. I must also say, in financial independence, we are simply talking about how much is left, not how much you earn. If you don't pick anything from our discussion today, no, it is not about how much you earn. There are people who earn a lot of money, and yet they cannot show what is remaining in their hands. There are others who are earning very little, but they have been diligent to save. I also want to say this as we start, that anything that you don't manage, you will lose. So in any investment that you don't get yourself involved in, you will lose it. That was said by Miles Monroe, and I think it is a powerful thing to say, that if you intend to make any investment, be willing to invest your time and your energies in them. After this presentation, all what I'm trying to say is not after this you have to rush to action. Please don't get to what we call in psychology action bias. It is not going to tell you rush and do things. You need to sit down and look back at the information I'm going to give you, and then you see what is to you. I would point out some few things that I've experienced as I do investments, that the following will not move you to sustainable wealth. Number one, your 2 hands only will never make you wealthy. You need some other hands that will be working for you. We'll talk about that as we move on. Number two, working 8 to 5 for 5 days a week will not give you sustainable wealth. The minimum you should be working is yet 8 to 5. But even the wealthiest people, 8 hours is not enough to create enough wealth for you. Another thing, any hour you do after 40 hours a week, that is where we'll start to be created. Unhealthy competition, illegal businesses, betting will not give you any sustainable wealth. We want to move from hand to mouth to being able to be wealthy. So we need to be in very healthy competition, not involved in illegal businesses. Things like betting, for us who are people of faith, should not be an issue that you'll be dealing with. And finally, not taking care of your physical health is also not going to help you in the long run. We need to take care of our physical health. What are the benefits of being financially free? One of them is, of course, improved quality of life. You'll be able to be taking leave. You'll be able to be taking holidays. It will give you increased peace of mind. It will reduce the level of stress, improve relationships. I know for those who are married, when you have money in the bank, the relation seems to be doing very well. It also have financial benefits in the sense that you'll be able to invest in many other ways. I don't want to take so much time in some of these details. I'll rush through them because I want to end up in giving some ideas of out of my experiences, where do we think we can get spaces to invest? But what are the steps that you need to follow to become financially free? Number one, we must create a financial plan. What is it that you want to achieve? Out of all this, you need to set financial goals, identify where your source of income will be. You must determine what your expenses are, because it's important for you to monitor how you are spending your money, and you must develop a budget. This thing of people just spending the money without knowing where the money is going, if you want to become financially free, you must be good in budgeting. You must also reduce and avoid debt. Debt can be a stressor. We need to make sure that we are reducing it. Actually, the Bible says that a borrower is a slave of the person who gives you a loan. So we don't continue becoming slaves. Build an emergency fund. It is important that you start putting some money aside for emergencies. Recommendations are build a cash reserve somewhere. It may be in a low earning interest rate kind of an account where you're putting up some money that will form to about your 6 months income salary or your expenditures for 6 months. Some of us know what happened in 2020 with the advent of COVID. For those who had some money set aside, did not survive those who didn't have one. So I recommend, as one of your key financial plan or financial goal, is to set up an emergency fund. You can start by saving some significant amount of your money every month towards ensuring that you have an emergency fund. You also need to increase your savings and investments, but you cannot be able to increase your savings and investments without managing your expenses and also improving your incomes. And also you have to, to be a person who is practicing good financial habits. One of the key things that we need to do is to be people who live within our means. You're tracking our spending, avoiding impulse buying. For me, whenever I want to buy something, one of the things you need to do, I use a 3-day leave. If I find something that I like and I think I need to buy it, I don't buy it the time that I see it. I give myself at least about a week to rethink about it, see whether do I really need that particular thing. So it becomes a thing that you use as a habit to make sure that you're practicing good financial habits. And finally, it is important for you to regularly review your spending. I don't want to go to the areas of personal finance. I want to speed up because I don't think we have much time. But just to mention, because today we're talking about investing, this is an issue of trying to put together assets that you earn you some returns. We'll talk about that at length. So not take too much time on that. But also to talk about pillars of personal finance. And the pillars of personal finance are assets. Assets are basically resources that can be converted into or can generate cash within a period of time. Some people think that building your own house is an asset. It can actually become a liability. Sometimes you spend more money in maintaining a home than actually renting it. Liabilities, we need to manage our liabilities. That's the money that we owe other people. But today, most I'll talk about income. This refers to all money that one generates within a period of time. So we need to look at how do we increase this net income that you have. Finally is about expenses. And these are the money you need to spend to be able to live your life. I want to use the lever analogy as I think about how do we generate income. And this one will talk to those people who are at the continuum of high earners to those who are starting their life. When I think about generating income, usually most people, your salary is the main source of income. If you look at a river starts as a tributary, then it have got very many rivers, other tributary feeding into it. And by the time you come to the second level, if you look at what I'm showing, there's a zone 1, zone 2, and zone 3. At zone 2, the tributary has fed that particular river. So for us now, for those who are maybe having a salary, it starts with that becoming your main tributary as to the source of income. Then you need to form others that feed into main river. And therefore, you become the main track, what you call it, the main track, because that becomes the bigger river. But when you become now, because there are those people here who already have, they are at the level of the main trunk. They need to get to a point of distributary, where they're now distributing their wealth to very many other levels of investment. So Aliva demonstrate for me what you're talking about today. Now, how do we increase our net income? Because at the end of the day, is to try and make sure that you've got more money than what you are spending. So how do we increase that? In a short, I'll simply say this. It's either we increase our salaries or our revenues for those who own companies. This means you need to have more productivity. If you don't want to move from your current status, one of the things you may want to do is to ensure that you're increasing your revenues or salaries are increasing. The other way to make that your net income is higher is to reduce your cost. Review your current expenses with a view to eliminate or reduce expenses. Our main talk today is about generating new sources of income. In other words, new investments. So when you talk about new investments, how do we make our monies earn for us? One of the way you can go to savings accounts where you can save where you have got what you call a fixed secret deposit account. You can go to money market. You can go to stock exchange and buy shares. You can do treasury bills, that's government securities. You can do bonds. You can also do real estate or set up businesses. Now, all these have got its own pluses and minuses. I'm sorry for those people who are listening from outside the country. I will base my arguments onto the Kenyan economy. I've been involved in quite a number of these things, and therefore I'll give examples relating to a Kenyan economy. Savings account, I always say this. You remember the story Jesus gave of the talent? There's that guy who was given $1 talent, and he hid it. And when he was being reprimanded, he was told you should have put your money into the bank. At least I could have earned some interest. What that tells me, as an investor, the lowest I can do is what the banks can give me. So any investment that we do that gives us less than what the bank can give you, you're wasting your resources. It's just good to put your money in the bank. However, if you look at the return on investment in savings account, the interest rate that you get is usually very low compared even to the inflationary rates that are there. Currently, I think the inflationary rate in Kenya are headed toward 10%. When you even go to the money market right now, they're giving between 7 to about 9%. But you see, therefore, if the inflation is higher than the interest that you're getting, so you're actually losing in essence. So savings account, I would put my emergency fund in a savings account because of the ease of access in case I need that money, but I will not put a lot of money into that because it doesn't earn me more. Because at the end of the day, I want to increase my income. I want to increase the money that remains after my expenditure. Money market, again, is almost like the savings account where you give banks money, then they give you a certain kind of return. Stock exchange is good. If I give an example in Kenya, little money, you need very little money to enter into the stock exchange. You only need to buy a minimum of 100 shares. And there's some shares in Kenya are as low as 1 shillings and 50 cents. So with 150 or 200 shillings, you can be able to start the process of entering that particular. It's very easy to enter into the stock exchange. And even though there has been an issue of saying that people have lost a lot of money in the stock exchange, the dividends have been good. I can give an example like last year. For those of us who had shares like APSA, had Coop Bank, like Coop Bank gave us 1 shillings and 50 cents per share as dividend. But when you think about it, for me, I think I bought them for about 9 shillings and 80 cents. It was more than 15% return. That is even better than the savings account. So what I'm simply saying, stock exchange is also a very good place to go to. Treasury bills, they are assured. It's like the banks, but they're a bit better. Bonds are long-term. I've seen bonds that are going up to 16%. I think the government is giving one at 16%. They're also giving you good money. The only difference between the bond and the stock exchange is that the bond, you still remain your initial amount of money that you're deposited, even though you're being given the interest. But you see the stock exchange, the value, there's the interest, the dividends that you get, and this is what you call the capital gain, the gain in the price of the share itself, which can also be huge and can be good returns. Then there's the whole issue of real estate, and you can set other businesses. So where do we start? One of the things I must say in terms of us expanding our ability to increase our incomes, number one is to improve ourselves. We must improve our skills. In other words, we must sharpen our axe. If you do a certain level of, there's a skill that you sell if you're employed, you must move from the basic level, improve yourself to elementary level, go to an expert level, and become a specialist. The purpose of this is a line for your increase, your line of incomes is that number one, due to increased skill, your productivity will be high. If you're employed in your current role, you get better pay. Your salary adjustment will be better. So that increases your income. Number two, you can sell that skill outside your normal job. That is to do with consultancies and lecturing. Some people are so good in what they do. I believe you have even actually met some people, even the basic level of a skill at the tertiary level, somebody who is a very, very good plumber, for example. Even though they're fully employed somewhere, they'll always find somebody recommending them because of their good work. So if we make our skills sharpened, I assure you, you can win in two fronts, where you're employed, because your productivity is high, you can negotiate better pay, you can actually be able to move from one company to the next with better pay because you've improved yourself. So I cannot fail to tell you, whatever you're doing, improve your skill. Do whatever it takes to make yourself move from the level you are today to a specialist level. If I may give an example, I worked as a consultant at PricewaterhouseCoopers for about 10 years. By the time I left PricewaterhouseCoopers, my charge out rate when I joined and when I left, they were worlds apart. Even today, I do some consultancies, and I don't think I can agree to do a consultancy today with less than $2,500 a day. I don't think I would consider an assignment that I will do in consultancy that I'll charge less than $2,500 a day. So if that is the case, therefore, if you improve your skill to that specialist level, I assure you, you will be talking of a different level of a person and income. Another thing you can do, if you don't already have accounts, appropriate accounts like in stock exchange, you need CDS account, treasury bills and the bonds. Those are easy areas to get into. You only need to call a broker and you'll be able to start investing. And as little, if I talk about the Kenyan market, for example, for you to buy a share for Cooperative Bank or Barclays Bank, each share I think is around 11 shillings now for both of those particular banks. Amazingly in Kenya, banks do well even in the worst of times. So you can open an account. You only need 1,000, maybe 1,200 to have your initial 100 shares for either Barclays or whichever you use, but you can seek advice from a broker. And brokers are there. There are many brokers. So you can be able to do that. If you want to do something to do the savings account, you can open accounts as appropriate. Now, I want to mention, Walter, may I maybe ask, are we together or am I too first?
No, you are very okay, Elder Mark. We are really learning a lot. And
Okay.
very soon we'll be taking a few queries.
Okay.
But we are really together.
Okay.
So,
so I'll go to some of the areas that I think we have got ease of entry. Anybody who wants to get into some areas that they can start putting their money into or to start earning an extra coin from. After we've improved yourself, we can actually now, the first one is trading. Trading is diverse, very diverse. You can trade in anything. In other words, you can buy and sell. The only thing you can do, you can start from a small scale. Some of these things, you can do them from a very small scale to a mega scale. Trading is one area that I think anybody can go into. One thing I need to tell you, you just need to have a competitive advantage. You just need to be 5% better from your competitor, from the person who's providing it. Give a 5% discount, you are in business. So you can identify a need in your environment. It doesn't matter what your environment it is. In the whole supply chain of very many things, you can identify an area and you just identify a cheap source of the product or the service and competitively make an offer to buyers or users of that particular service. Competitive advantage is only based on three main areas. It is either you're going to be better in price, you're going to be more convenient, or your quality is better. You can create a competitive advantage in those three areas. For those people who are employed, you can provide convenience to the people you're working with. You can identify something that you can provide within your working areas and then be able to source. The biggest problem I've found with us people, we are extremely ignorant about what is available and where you can get them. This is calling for us to actually do research, get to know where can I get what and what does that entail, and then you can be able to provide. I was just thinking, of course, if for example I'm CEO in an organization, it will be difficult for me to be able to start selling products within the company because of conflict of interest. But in some levels, you can be able to be providing these things, at ease and just being able to provide these products to people or services. Number two, you can go into production. In production, it can be, I'm talking about areas that I think are easy to do and things that people will need. When I started doing some businesses, I've always given these examples. When I was doing trading, and I go back to trading, I was basically selling sweets and pencils and pens to shops. I would just go ask them how much they buy those things. I just go to Kirinyaga Road, I buy those things, I come and sell them at a lower. I was providing convenience and I'm providing price, competitive advantage, and I would make my money. Easy things, you don't need to have a lot of money. You can do that with a rucksack if you're from the lowest level, or you can do it to the highest level where you're buying a whole truck of these things. When I come to production, production can be done either primary level or secondary level. I want to give example of production in farming because I think I'm also in farming. And in farming, you can take a part in the whole supply chain of farming, all the way from equipment to do the farming, to seeds, to fertilizers, all the way to the issue of now being the one who is planting and harvesting and selling. One thing I need to advise here is that I would not want you to pick very many parts of the supply chain. Take one, specialize in it, and do it well, and then provide. And you'll be able to find, you can do it in small scale, all the way to large scale. But it's always good to start from a small scale. The biggest challenge you're finding in farming is the supervision, especially if you're employed. In small scale, it is becoming extremely difficult because getting good people has become such a challenge in our market here in Kenya. So agriculture, you can do horticulture, you can do fruits, you can do vegetables, you can do flowers. You can also do cash crops like coffee and tea. There are challenges. For those who want to do cash crops like coffee and tea, I've talked to this, I have interest in tea, and I do a bit of tea. But one of the things for sure I found very difficult is when I've talked to the specialists in this area, they tell me for you to have a profitable coffee or tea production, you need to have not less than 2.5 acres. So that means that you need to have a big piece for you to be able to be breaking even, to break even in that particular areas. And that has become very restrictive. So in real agriculture, there are various things you can get yourself into. In livestock, here I'll give a bit of information because I'm in livestock, and I think I found a niche in this, and I can tell you in livestock, there are very many things that you can do. You can do chicken, you can do them in layers. Just to give an example, why would I go for layers, not any other? I've seen people going to kienyeji, I've got people going to broilers, but I found difficulties in broilers and kienyeji, but there are people who are doing them. They seem to be happy with it. But my experience more is in chicken layers themselves. I'll give you an example why I say that. For you to be able to do chicken layers, the amount of money you need to enter is not high. For you to get one, and before you get the first egg, 18 weeks to 20 weeks, you will have spent about 694 shillings. Right now, after that, that's 694 to 700 shillings per layer. You are spending about 11 shillings to get an egg. And we are selling an egg at 15 shillings. So for each egg, you're making 4 shillings, 3 to 4 shillings. So if you have got 1,000 chicks, they usually lay between 80 and 90%. So if you've got 1,000 chicks, it tells me you'll be having 900 eggs a day. So if you multiply 900 from the 3 shillings that you made, so that tells me every day you are making 2,700 shillings when you have 1,000. And if you have got 1,000, you're telling me you only need about 700,000 before you start getting the eggs. So that tells you you have comfortably about 3,000 shillings every day. That is 90,000 in a month. If you do plus and minus, you'll comfortably do 60 to 70,000 with 1,000 layers, which you spend less than 1,000,000 shillings to set up. But for you to do real estate, to get 30,000, you'll spend more than 4.5 million Kenya shillings. If I put 4.5 million shillings into chicken business, I think if you do your multiply, you can see how well that will be. The good thing with this area, it is that it's easy to enter, it is not restrictive, and you can do it. The biggest challenge is workers and supervision. And I want to tell you this, if you're not willing to supervise, don't get into it. Get in the stock exchange. Because in stock exchange, you have hired the senior managers of ABSA and other banks to manage the money for you. So it's something that you may want to look at. dairy and beef. That's both we do goods and we're also doing cattle. Our experiences in dairy, it's a bit dicey because of the difficulties in terms of getting fodder and all that. But if you've got big farms, you can be able to do that and make money. I need to say this. When I say you need to be present, have you ever thought the biggest dairy farmers in Kenya or beef farmers in Kenya live in Laikipia? There are some large ranches in Laikipia, but those white men live in Laikipia because these businesses, you must be there. You must be present. Your goal is not somebody else's goal. The other area is pig. Pig is good. I've experienced in it. Before you sell a pig, you spend around 10,000, 12,000. Now the prices have really, really improved. Within 6 months, you spend about 10,000 to 12,000. But if you've got a lot of them, there is what we call the economies of scale. You'll be able to sell that. Nowadays, they're selling it between 300 and 350. After 22 weeks, a pig eats about 250 kilos before you sell it. And if a kilo is about 54 shillings and 40 shillings per kilo, you're spending about 10,000, 2,000 for workers because you've got many. You find yourself, you'll be able to sell that pig when it is 70 kilos. We are selling it about between 300 shillings and 350 per kilo. That tells you sell it at 21,000. So you'll be able to get clean 10,000 per pig if you're building it well. And that's a very good area, an easy area to get into. The good thing with pigs is that unless they steal the feeds, they will not steal the pig. The other area I've seen, I've had some people talk about it, I'm trying it out, is the beekeeping, especially for those who have got idle lands. It's a good area because supervision is low and doesn't require a lot of work. You just need to buy the beehives. Beehives are going between 4,500 to about 5,500. And in a good area with good coverage, each beehive can give you up to 60 kilos of honey in a year. And a kilo of honey in Kenya is costing about 700 shillings. So that would be about 42,000 per beehive. So if you've got many of them, it tells you that I'm trying it, but I'll see how it ends at some point. So even if it gives you 40 kilos in a year and you sell at 700, it's giving you 28,000 a year. So if you've got 10 of them, it's giving 280,000 a year. And the management is not as difficult. The other area that I think is easy to access is the black soldier flies keeping. These people are keeping this, and it takes only 38. The whole life cycle of a black soldier fly is 38 days. And what you do when they are dried and they're being used for protein enhancement in animal feeds, yes, people are selling it between 100 shillings to 150 shillings. So depending on your energies, and doesn't require a lot of space, it doesn't require a lot of management. It's something that you can do, go to work and leave it, and it's something that you can be able to get yourself into. So farming is one area that you can never go wrong. People must continue eating, and if well managed, have got two advantages. One, it is easy to enter into it. Two, it's not expensive as other investments. And number three, you'll always get a place to sell. The other area, and I think that also an easy area to enter, is brokerage. Use your networks, connect buyers and suppliers of product and services. You don't even have to own anything. Some people ask me, what can I start with the 20,000? You just need to create your business card. Get out there, get to know where things are, and be able to get people who want to buy them. And connecting people. Brokers are making a kill in this society. I believe even if you want to buy land, for example, if you went to Optiven today with 5 customers to buy a plot, and they buy a plot, I'm sure Optiven will give you a commission. You don't have to own anything. You just have to use your network correctly. You just have to sit down and use your networks correctly. And that way you'll be able to make money. Real estate is another area. brokerage is wide. In fact, some of the richest people in this nation of ours are brokers. They just go in the middle. They know where the product is and they know where the buyer is, and then they connect the two. And in the process, you make money. The only thing you need is a business card. You don't even spend 10,000 shillings to do that. Number 4 is real estate. This is where you buy, subdivide, and sell land. That's common in Kenya. May require a little bit of money. Build residential and commercial facilities. For those people at the low end, this is what I recommend. Let's move with the government policy. Our government policy today is toward devolution. So we are going into sub-county headquarters and county headquarters. You don't have to come to Nairobi. Nairobi may be too expensive. And in those areas, go and buy a piece of land and start with the single rooms. Single rooms, nowadays, you build one with about 200,000 Kenyan shillings. In some areas, a single room is going as high as 5,000 shillings. And if you go to the sub-county headquarters, because that's where people are going, there's a lot of people moving to those areas. There's no housing. And 5,000, that tells me within 40 months, you have your money back. So, and that's an easy way of investing. But I would like you to make a note on this, that real estate, please avoid as you start major bank loans at the start. Use your savings first or get circle loans. They are more comfortable. You can also do pullings with some close friends. I've got some close friends of mine that you've pulled together. It's just the other day we are doing a review of what you've been able to do together. We've bought some rental houses together. And it is easy when you're a pool. You can be able to create a lot of synergy in that. And also there is what we call, in terms of real estate, it needs a bit of time. So you cannot just rush into it and you need to be careful. The other area is transport and freight. After products are produced, they need to be transported from one point to the other. Nowadays, I think Matatus and the Sacco has tried to bring some sanity in them, where some people are actually buying Matatus and giving it to Saccos. There's some people in this particular group I know that have tried Matatus and they have given me some mixed reactions to it. I've never tried transport. I've never liked transport. I don't like dealing with Kenyan policemen. I've got nothing for those who are police in this particular presentation. I've got nothing against you, but I've got concerns that transport is easy to enter. Things like Uber are easy to go into. If you don't have a job, nowadays I think we have got car sellers are willing to give you a car with minimal investment and you continually pay. So it's an area that is easy to get into, and the opportunity that can create some level of income for some people. So I know I've talked a lot. I didn't want to talk to bigger things because I could also talk about for us to deal with the precious metals, things like gold and silver, because that's just another area that people are making money. But I thought I'd just talk about the things that are easy to enter and for us to go into. One of the things I need to say at this particular point is that you realize for you to do these things, there's one key element that all of us must learn, and that is negotiation skills. If you become a broker, you must be able to negotiate with a buyer, get a good deal, and also negotiate with the seller and sell it well. And if this meeting, if the convener of this meeting thinks that that's an area I like to coach our people in terms of how do you negotiate, because in all these areas, you need to have excellent negotiation skill. It's a skill that every one of us must have for us to be successful in business and even in our jobs. If you don't have it, you'll have a problem. In conclusion, I know I may not have much time to talk more, but I need to say this. For us to gain financial independence, one need to set financial goal. We need to know what is that you are working towards. Manage your cash flow. Some of you are earning enough money to be having a lot of money that can be set aside for investment, but your expenditure is not right. The biggest element I see most people putting their money on is housing. How can you be earning 50,000 and you are living in a house of 35,000? I assure you that that's recipe for failure. So you need to live within your means. We must seek ways to improve our net income. We can still improve our net income by simply being better where we are working. We can still use our skills outside. We don't have to go outside But I also say that we must live within our means for us to have excesses that can be used to invest. My biggest, I would like you to take home is to ask yourself, how much am I remaining with? And I live with this. It is not how much you earn, but what remains. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Elder Mark. We have quite a number of questions. We'll try to find if we can respond to a few of them. So the first one is on beekeeping. So somebody is asking, what are the beekeeping requirements? Can you keep bees in your home? So maybe you can guide us.
Of course, there's a time that the government had, in fact, the government has put some regulations about keeping bees, but there was an uproar the other day about them. But of course, because bee can be a dangerous thing. If you are in a residential place, you're not allowed to put it in a residential place. I'm talking especially for those people who have got land, especially those in our lands that are expanse and you're not using any of that land for anything. It can be a good thing to do, but it's a very lucrative business. There's some people that I can connect you with, even some of them I know in this particular meeting, that can actually be of help to those who want to keep these.
Wow. So the next question is on transport. So somebody's asking, can you share about transport business in the matatu sector? Because I think some people probably could be wanting to venture into that or have gotten challenges. So maybe you can share with us something on that.
The best thing I can do here, because I think the government has tried to rein on that particular sector. I know and I believe that our chairman for MOG, Mr. Felix, has got a better understanding of it, because I think there's a time he was running them. But when I look at the strategy for Ken Silver, for example, that company has sustained, has got a niche. He's doing better in a certain ways that it's a business that is successful. And when you talk about transport, you talk about very many things, even things like trucks, things like as easy as taxis. It's a big business. But when it comes to matatu, nowadays joining the circles, I think, is helping to manage them. But of course, it has got a challenge like any other business. But you may not exhaust that business right here on this particular forum. But it's a business that one may want to consider if you have got a backbone, because there's got people with backbone.
Wow, we are learning a lot. So the next question is, at what point should one leave employment to focus on growing the business? Should you bow to pressure? People are telling you, why are you working? And so at what point should I now resign and focus in my business?
I think there has been a hype of people being told to start business so I can leave employment. Actually, there are people who have become very wealthy, but they're still doing very well in their jobs. If you are doing a job that you love, if you are doing a job that your skill is needed, because we are here as in service, we are serving others, and you love the area that you're dealing with, you don't have to leave your current job. Personally, I left employment at a very early age. I decided to move on. My target was to leave employment at 40. But at least I got later, I left at 45. But I recommend that when you start realizing the business that you're running are giving you more than what you're earning, if you're in an organization that you're not really happy, you're looking for ways to get out, you feel like it's toxic or you don't want to be there, if you've got the businesses that your side shows, the side hustles that you're doing are giving you more income than your current income, it gives you a basis to go out. If you're well grounded in terms of your other investments, because at the end of the day, what you're looking at is to have what you call passive income that is equivalent to your current pay. Let me say this: for example, when you're doing farming, the good thing with farming is this: even the issue of tax, because when we sell egg, we are paid in cash. So it's an area that I wonder why we didn't start these things earlier. because when you are being paid a salary, by the time you get it, 30% is gone. But in other areas, but the question was, when should I leave? Is when you feel that the businesses are able to supply, or you can see the trajectory of the growth requires your presence more, and you can see the growth is significantly enough to be able to give you bigger income than what you're earning currently.
Powerful. So the other question is on risk assessment.
Walter,
so
just a minute.
Yes.
There is something that the Mark mentioned about black soldier farming. What is that?
Chris, see me after this. It's one of the way of producing protein that is being used in research on it. I think Dr. Kuya can tell you about it. It's a lucrative business.
Wow. Okay. So the other question is on risk. Somebody is asking, how can investors assess their risk tolerance and align their investments accordingly? Because you remember, like, some people probably invested in Everready, and later on you find that maybe it was about to collapse also. Or maybe I invest into a chicken business and I don't do the management by participation, which you mentioned. So then at the end of the day, I lose. So how do you assess the risk? Can probably comment on the risk part.
The good thing that is our market has matured, especially in the stock exchange. We have got people who are very, very qualified and they do analysis. Personally, when I buy a newspaper, there's a page that shows about the share thing. I receive reports regularly about the stock exchange by my broker. Now we have got brokers that are very good. If you attach yourself with a good broker, you shouldn't be worried about the risk, because they do their risk assessments of each and every stock. They'll give you which has got a good upside, and the ones that they don't seem to think that it's going to do so well. They have got more information than you can have. And the stock exchange brokers are very, very, very fundamental for you to be able to make those decisions. Actually, my broker actually gives me the list of the shares that I think they're good to buy. Then it's for me just to decide where I want to get involved in. Sometimes they'll give me like breweries are a good one to buy, but because of my conviction, I'll not buy breweries. Because of my Christian stand, I will not buy BAT. Even though it's a very good share, I will not buy it. So they'll give me a list of them, then I'll decide which one to buy. So it's not for you necessarily to work at it. If you attach yourself to a good broker, they'll be able to assist you on that. So don't stress yourself on that, because they already do analysis and they'll show you.
Powerful. So the other thing, probably for a minute, you can comment on cryptocurrency. I think you touched also on betting. So when you wanasemanga Arsenal kichwa, so now therefore
it amazes me, especially for those people who go ahead and bet, because you're betting on something that is either you get or you don't. And some people bet even up to about 500 shillings a day. Others will even bet
5,000, not 500 a day.
So 1,000 a day. And if you, for example, you want to buy shares with that money, it's a better bet if you want to bet to go into stock exchange and buy shares. If I give you an example, for us who bought Safaricom, it was 3 shillings and 5 shillings. We bought it at 3 shillings. If you think about it, it is now at 15 shillings. There's a time it had gone off the way to 44. Some of us are really crying why we didn't sell it when it was 44. But we still in the money, in the sense that we bought at 3. It is now at 15 shillings. That's about 5 times. If, for example, you bought it at 1, you spend 1 million, it is telling me you are now worth over 4-5 million. So, and I've been receiving dividends every year. So I think betting should not be something, we are not, especially for Christians, we don't do this thing by luck. We don't depend on luck. We are faith people. So I don't recommend. Some people have lost a lot of wealth out of betting.